I'm Lindsey Jurgens, and this is Leaders Like Us. I'm sitting here with Liz Mayfield today. She's the Executive Director of Hope Harbor in Grand Island. And Liz, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yes.
Super excited.
You're the official guinea pig of Leaders Like Us.
Love
and
it.
So we will figure this out together.
Yes,
And I
I'm
so
so excited.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. I love
Yes.
talking about leadership and all things connected. So
Absolutely.
I'm here for it.
And Pinnacle Bank was nice enough to let us do this in their beautiful, newly renovated location in
Yes.
Railside.
It's gorgeous here.
It is. So
I'm
we're on the
just, like, blown
second
away.
level, and
Yeah.
yes, so shout out to them. Okay, so I wanted to do this because with Leadership Tomorrow, we have the awesome opportunity to get to hear from so many local leaders, so many figures that we hear a lot about, read a lot about, and I love it. But I also want to hear more. So can you start off, please, by telling me why Hope Harbor is so cool?
Oh, absolutely. Where do I start? The first thing that comes to mind for me is our team, just because that's been something that we've over time really crafted and thoughtfully put effort into building leadership skills even within our team. But as an organization, we're vital to the Grand Island community and we recognize that responsibility and we take it seriously. Mm-hmm. And so my staff does such a great job of working hard to serve the clients that, come to our doors with thoughtfulness and making sure that they're doing so with an organizational mindset. So knowing that we are doing that for the community as a service and we need to do it well. So for me, I think, Hope Harbor not only brings an essential service to the area, but we at least strive to do our best to bring it in a quality manner. And doing so with a community mindset is really important to me personally as well. Not only do we receive a lot of support from the community, through donations, but just understanding that the clients that we serve and the people that come through our doors are our community. They are our neighbors and our loved ones and our kids' schoolmates and all those things. And so it's really important to us to understand the community aspect of what we do. We're not just an organization that has beds available. We are that, but we try to be more than that. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And how long have you been with Hope Harbor?
I've been with Hope Harbor since 2014.
Okay.
I became the executive director at the end of 2016. And so I've been there for a little while now. Yeah. It's gone by really fast.
Yeah.
Like it flies.
Oh, I bet.
When you're
And
having fun.
had you ever been in a leadership role prior to being the ED?
Good question. Not really. This is kind of my first leadership role. I'd had leadership opportunities through like volunteering or boards I'd been on and that aspect, but this is the first time for me that I was, managing or leading employees.
Yeah. So what do you feel like are the greatest lessons you've learned from this experience since you started?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's a good question. For me, I think some of the greatest lessons I think you learn even from the people that you're leading, right? So just understanding that there's a lot of flexibility in how people learn, right? I really think it's important as a leader to understand individualism. So understanding that each individual that you're leading has unique needs, has unique, their own unique maybe past or their own baggage potentially they might even be bringing in. And so having an understanding of that and a little bit of maybe an emotional IQ just to kind of like say, okay, this is what we're dealing with. This is a situation. And so from that perspective, I think that's what makes leadership different than management is that individualization and being able to say, okay, no, this is what this team member needs right now for support. And so this is where we're going to go. Also, I've had great training. So I am a Leadership Tomorrow alum and there's a lot of skills that I learned in that class for sure. Made a lot of great connections. I've also been a part of Nonprofit Excellence Institute by the Grand Island Community Foundation. And that has been that had a huge impact on me as a leader as well in the nonprofit world, especially because it is a unique kind of set of circumstances that we lead. So those opportunities have been amazing. So I try to take advantage of every learning opportunity that I can.
How has motherhood shaped who you are as a leader?
I'm glad you didn't say these ahead of time because that's a good question too. Where do I begin? going back to the empathy piece, obviously that's number one, right? So when your kiddos are going through it and you're sitting with them in that and trying to navigate all that, I think you just naturally learn that. In my situation, I have kiddos that have special needs, and so advocating has been a big part of my motherhood journey, and just understanding what their needs are, and then being able to communicate that well to people in their lives, whether that be teachers or volunteers they work with or whoever it is, has been huge. Motherhood came to me in a different way than most. And
can you talk about that?
Definitely.
How did you come to be a mother, Liz?
Sure. My husband and I became foster parents many years ago at this point. And we were able to adopt from foster care, and we adopted a sibling set of 3 kids. And it's been a journey, and adoption is super complex. It is a beautiful journey, but it's hard for everyone. There's a loss for every party involved, for biological family and kiddos, and even for us, there's, just because it's a little bit different. And we dealt with years of infertility as well. And so kind of navigating through all that space to get to maybe the goal of a family was challenging. And I think, at that time, especially for me, my career was kind of backseat while we went through that. And so being where I'm at in motherhood now, I have a little more freedom to be pursuing maybe what I want to do, which is exciting. Yeah. But we went through it for sure. And no matter the kid, kiddos obviously have a lot of needs, right? So even those without special needs or without coming through foster care, there's a lot of parenting that happens in those quiet moments and in those being with and sitting with. And I find that it does parallel the work at Hope Harbor too, right? So as we come to, sit with people who are going through hard times and kind of like maybe have that empathy and be with them when they're going through it, it's very similar to motherhood. And I've got 2 in middle school and 1 in high school now. So, we are just all the things, right? We're going through all the things, all the emotions, all the stuff. And so I think that obviously parallels a little bit of the work that we do too, because it's just kind of complex. And so, I definitely think it would be impossible to not have motherhood affect leadership. Or even worldview, just understanding what that looks like when you care for another human.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
So I met you in a pretty interesting way.
Yes.
We know a lot of the same people and have known a lot of the same people for a long time. But there was this article that came out about how people hear a voice in their head, and they called it an inner dialogue, I think. And I thought, I read the article and I thought, that is interesting. And I started thinking about how I'm thinking. And I said, there's definitely nothing going on up there. It's just, it's pictures, there's no audio. And so I put it on Facebook, and I said, this is funny. I can't believe people can hear their thoughts, ha ha ha, or whatever I said.
Yeah.
And everyone went, that's crazy. What do you mean you can't hear your thoughts? And then someone tagged you, I believe, this is how this happened, tagged you in that post and said, Liz, you can't hear your thoughts either. You have someone like you. And we were pretty aligned whenever we actually went to converse about it in the way that we see our thoughts. Yes. And mine are often color-coded and shaped. That's how I remember birthdays mostly.
That's awesome.
And it was funny though, because whenever I was talking about that with you, you're pretty much the only person I've ever spoken with that said, I feel you on that.
Exactly. And I think that the funny thing is, I think I probably posted an article almost exactly the same time as you, because then people were doing the same on my feed. They were like, do you know Lindsey? Tag,
Isn't that funny?
And we hadn't been, we had never met, and we hadn't been, friends on Facebook or anything. So it was really funny, because I said the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people do this. And I kind of knew, because my husband does very much have an inner dialogue. Yeah. And he's always thought, God, it's so weird you don't. And we never talked about it until the article came out, in the sense of like, oh, I'm really kind of alone in that a little bit. Like all of my friends were like, I totally have an inner dialogue. So it was really funny and kind of fun, because I think the same way. I think in pictures a lot. I think I don't have any. So for example, if I'm just by myself, if I've been swimming laps lately, right? So if I'm just swimming, it's just me. I don't have any music on or anything like that. I think in pictures still. Yeah. Like I don't sit there and like talk to myself in my head. It's just so interesting. And I know I feel very alone when I say that.
I do too. I'm like, I should talk to Liz about this because she understands me. Well, in the theme of leadership though, do you think there's any difference in the way that you lead with the way that you think compared to someone who might have that inner dialogue? And I'm a little jelly of them because they can run their thoughts before they say them. Unlike people like ourselves, we don't get the opportunity to say, let me really think about this and what I'm going to say. It just comes out.
I just say it, and then
we just say it.
Yeah, so I could say there could be a little bit of a problem in leadership.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's not excellent all the time, but I would say that part of what I've learned is that I'm then a verbal processor. I don't process in my head, I process out loud. So like having friends I can talk to out loud and be like, I wonder about that, da 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 da, and just like talking out loud with someone else helps me. So I do have, close friends who I can say, okay, guys, is this crazy? Because I'm thinking about doing this, and verbalize it, but I would never have that conversation in my head, right? Yeah. So it's been really helpful. I would say though, when it comes to like leadership, it is interesting, like how I group people or how I think through meetings, even like same, like we're talking about like sections and stuff. I visualize what that's going to be like. So I might visualize like, okay, we're going to do this activity and then maybe we're going to move to this activity. And I'm much more likely to visualize it than I am to like talk it out or write it out. And I don't ever really think about maybe what the words I'm going to say during that meeting, but I might think about what it's going to look like. So yeah, it is different. I don't know. We're just freaks, I guess. I don't know.
Weirdos. Yeah. That's the theme.
Unicorns. There we go.
I want to hear a little bit about what you want to see for Grand Island.
Absolutely. Great question. So we have obviously chosen to raise our kids here, and we've been here for a really long time. I did grow up here, and then I left and went to college. My husband, we moved back. He's from St. Louis, so he has a very different perspective of, everything kind of, because he had a very different, upbringing. And so for us, Grand Island's a big draw for me is family, right? So that, having friends and family that we've known our whole lives, being around cousins and family members is super important. So personally, that's one of the reasons I love Grand Island. As a community though, I think we're just on that brink of really big growth, right? So we kind of continue to be this like small city, kind of big small town, one of those two things. And so I feel like, I'm excited to see maybe the next chapter for Grand Island and see what that growth entails. Because I do think there's a lot of opportunity for there to be, a tipping point where maybe the growth includes, additional, and I know there's, efforts for all this, but additional activities for kids and additional, resources and all those things that can come with like being a metropolitan area. So I'm excited for that chapter. I think Grand Island has such a giving community. Obviously, from my role, I can see that regularly. We have so many individuals and families and businesses that care for our people at Hope Harbor. And I love that generosity. And so I think, kind of capitalizing on that and making sure that that generosity is reaching all the areas of Grand Island that need it is really important. One of the things I love about Grand Island as well is how diverse it is. My kiddos I'm excited when, their school, their time in school, has been so amazing because they've met a lot of different friends. They've learned about cultures that they never maybe would have learned about in other places. And I love that for them. And so that's been really important to me, which is one of the things I think makes Grand Island unique. So I'd love to see that, again, that kind of expansion of Grand Island's identity as a place where we have so many different cultures present, and we get to experience a lot of great food and great, different activities for that reason. So
I love it. I feel like that is why we need more representation in our leadership of people of different color, ethnicity. I personally want to see more women in leadership roles. Do you have any ideas on how to pull the people from the shadows and say, come out and you can be in the bright lights. It's okay.
You know what? I actually think this last election was such a great example, and I'll use you as an example as well. But having people run for a local office has been amazing, and seeing that happen. And I know that's been huge, and I absolutely support that. I also think there's such a balance, and in the pandemic, I think kind of set women back a little bit. And a lot of people, you know, we're caretaking, and then we've got careers, and we've got all these different things and hats that we're wearing. And so it's going to be important that we're intentional about making women feel that they have those connections. Obviously, things like childcare, that's a huge issue for a lot of women, and it does prevent people from moving forward. I know the YW is doing great work in a lot of those areas, and supporting their efforts is really important, I think. And I would say that for me, part of what makes me feel empowered is when I do see other women doing amazing things, and I think, okay, that's cool. That could be me. And it took a while for me to get there, right? So it wasn't something that I kind of like did in my 20s, and I just was always this like person who could walk around thinking whatever. It took me time to get there.
Right.
And so continuing to see people represented, I think your election is a great example of that, as well as just the ability for people to say, hey, I can do that, and I'm gonna step forward and say yes to maybe some challenging things that are outside my comfort zone. You know, that's important.
It is important. It's really, really cool and super scary. It's really scary to feel like I've never done anything like that before. I'm going to jump out of my little box here.
Yeah.
And what if everyone thinks you're a huge lame-o?
I feel that every day. I feel that constantly.
I feel like that. I've been feeling that a lot lately.
Right. I think that's part of, you know, and I don't know that imposter syndrome is unique to women. It could be not, but it's such a true statement. I think most women feel like, do I have a seat at this table? I shouldn't be here. Someone else should be here. I don't, you know, I feel that constantly. I feel that all the time.
You do.
And so I think, you know, overcoming that piece of being like, no, I'm supposed to be here. I'm meant to be here.
That's tough.
Or
I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're in Grand Island. I'm so happy
you
represent so many people, and you work on the huge topics.
Yeah. You know, and that's part of the piece that does motivate me, is to say, okay, but if I'm not here doing this, you know, yes, other people can certainly do it, but like it needs, like, I know that it needs done, and I know I'm serving that need well. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability while I can. But, and that's the lesson, the disservice in not stepping up, like what happens then. Right. So, I think that's super important, and just supporting each other, you know, like I said, childcare is a thing. Like, I have a support system that's amazing. So if I want to do an opportunity, for example, I got my master's degree while I was working full-time as director in raising kiddos. And I could have only done it because I had amazing friends and family, right? So, I mean, and that's where I think, you know, supporting each other as women is important, because saying, hey, I'll watch your kids if you need to study or whatever you need to do. And then understanding that not everybody has that support system. So the women that we serve at the shelter, like, we oftentimes become that support system if we can, or we try to connect them with support systems that can allow that. Because I'm extremely lucky to have the support system I have, and it's a privilege, you know, that not everybody has. For me, going forward, my commitment certainly has to be that we will only pull each other up, right? We will only get through the pandemic impact and community growth that we maybe want to see by supporting each other.
Let's do some quick questions.
Sounds good.
Quick ways to learn about Liz. Are you ready?
I think so.
And these you have to answer as quickly as possible. So we're not editing anything.
Okay.
Are we ready?
And you haven't told me these, so I'm scared.
What's that?
I'm scared.
So synced. Yep, these are not conversational. There's not a lot. I'm building this
this.
up
I got
because
this.
you're going to be disappointed.
Gonna do it.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Quick questions. What's your favorite book?
Oh my gosh. I would say Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
What's your favorite color?
Red.
Who lives on the deserted island longer, Matt Damon or Tom Hanks?
Oh, Tom Hanks. He's got the volleyball.
You have one superpower. What is it?
I want to fly, because then I can just go anywhere.
What's the best sandwich?
Oh my gosh. Patty melt.
Are you a good dancer?
No.
You have to name a porcupine right now. What's its name?
Sparky.
What's the last thing you watched on Netflix?
Bridgerton.
And you can invite anyone, living or dead,
Yes.
to have dinner with you.
Yes.
Who is it?
That is not a quick answer, Lindsay. Anybody. I have so much pressure right now.
So much.
I mean, is it a politician? Is it an actor? What is going on? It's a relative. It could be a relative.
It could be your neighbor? I don't know.
My grandpa.
It's her grandpa.
Yeah, my grandpa. He passed away quite a while ago.
Liz,
So, yes.
thank you so much for coming
you.
out today. I
Yes.
appreciate you. You are amazing. You are the executive director of Hope Harbor, Leadership Tomorrow Class 31. You're
Yes.
super cool. I'm
Thank
honored to
you.
know you. We want
Right
to
back
thank
at you.
Pinnacle Bank for letting us come and sit
Gorgeous.
in their gorgeous conference room in Railside.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for coming to Leaders Like Us, Leaders Like Liz. That's it.
Yes.
No idea what you were gonna have to work with on that, but
Angelica's gonna. I like this ending.